Everybody out there loves donning a power suit. Video games let us. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, the 10 most powerful armored suits in video games. Just as a quick disclaimer before we get into these, we're not going to do any mechs, because mech games are kind of their own genre, and we're also not going to do any Spider-Man or Batman costumes / suits. I think the obviousness of these things is the primary reason. They're kind of givens, so it's better not to. That out of the way, let's start off with number 10, the Praetor suit. As seen in Doom 2016 and its sequel, Doom Eternal, this Space Marine supersuit is not only cool looking and a distinct upgrade, retaining the aesthetic of the original Doom protagonist, it can also be upgraded through the use of tokens you can find on dead guards throughout the rebooted Doom series. The Praetor suit is actually looked at as somewhat of a scourge by the demons of hell. Over the course of Doom 2016, you add upgrades such as the jump boots, and in Eternal you add things such as the Doom Blade, which ultimately lands this thing with a ton of power and versatility. Also, let's just be clear, it looks badass. I wouldn't want to be a demon who just found out this dude showed up. Moving on to number 9, it's the ARS suit from Vanquish. ARS, of course, is an abbreviation for Augmented Reaction Suit. Essentially, it's created to give a single human being more power than a tank. It was created with government funding, DARPA putting money into it. It basically gives the wearer super soldier powers. As far as weapons go, it has a really cool system known as the Blade system, which physically alters its configuration to essentially have a bunch of different weapons on hand. But it's not just the weapon systems that make it so powerful, it's also fitted with actuators, which not only make the wearer much stronger, but also much faster. It has other actuators that respond to calculations as to the point of impact the wearer is attempting to hit when aiming a weapon, which not only improve the accuracy of the shot, but also compensate for the recoil. It's hard not to call that completely freaking awesome. And if this thing really existed, nobody would mess with the person who had it. At number 8 is the Mjolnir powered assault armor from Halo. Yes, I can say it. I think. Maybe. Let's call it the Halo armor for the duration of the point, but the Halo armor is an exoskeleton reserved for Spartan-class super soldiers. It's a pretty badass piece of machinery that does an incredibly good job at basically everything. You can drop a Spartan on any planet, and it will make the air breathable for them. It will ensure that they do not receive any toxins that might be present in the atmosphere, and it will protect them from radiation. On top of that, if somebody blows an EMP, it won't do anything, and it regulates the temperature of the wearer. Combining this with the fact that the Spartans themselves were genetically modified super soldiers made them a pretty intense threat to anybody they went up against. Although if you look into what the Spartans actually are, it's also horrifying. And number 7 is the Draken Alpha armor from Monster Hunter World. It's derived from the monster Behemoth, but you don't actually have to slay one in order to build it. There's things you can do to damage a behemoth to get the components, like breaking his horns. The reason you want this armor is that it gives you some serious advantages in battle. I'm not going to list all of them because it's actually that many, but one of the bigger ones is, of course, having an attack boost of +9 raw attack power, having a critical boost of 140%, and then on top of that, it includes a trait called Master's Touch, which makes it so you don't lose any sharpness on critical hits. On top of that, making it 25% more likely you will have a critical hit. It's just absolutely killer armor. If you're playing Monster Hunter and don't want it, I mean, maybe you just don't like what it looks like, but that's a dumb reason not to want it. It's like the best armor. At number 6 is the power suit from the Wolfenstein series. It's actually an ancient construction by a society known as the Dot Yachud, and it shows up through various forms throughout the rebooted series. You see it in the New Order, the New Colossus, and even in Youngblood, appearing as somewhat of an artifact which gave Caroline Becker the ability to move after being paralyzed. In the New Colossus, it helped BJ Blazkowicz, who had a similar injury, and in Wolfenstein Youngblood, the two protagonists, Jess and Soph Blazkowicz, both wear similar power suits, which are probably more or less derived from the original You Should power suit. The suits make the wearer stronger by linking itself with the central nervous system of their body, which is also how it helps paralyzed people move around as though they are not paralyzed. Defensively speaking, it also can deflect bullets using a retractable helmet, but it does have a couple of weaknesses. That being said, the wearers of this suit often took out big robots on their own, and you love to see it. At number 5 is the CMC-powered combat suit from Starcraft, which is a little bit more bulky than a lot of the ones we've currently mentioned. It's still technically an exoskeleton, but it's a lot more heavily armored. These suits feature advanced shielding, full life support, a lockdown mode in case you get wounded and need to be stabilized by being kept completely still, the ability to generate gravity in case you're on a space station or something like that, and a number of other lesser features that really make the wearer quite powerful as well as hard to hurt. The main disadvantage is that tons of people have these things in the StarCraft universe, so it's not like you're uniquely powerful. Still though, you wouldn't want to not have one. At number 4 is Mega Man X's Ultimate Armor, which, duh, who wouldn't want the Ultimate Armor? Its very name says what it is. Now, the Ultimate Armor is actually a secret armor that appeared from Mega Man X4 onward. Essentially, it was accessible through a code and then typically replaces another armor, such as the 4th armor, which in Mega Man X4 and 5, it's a modified version of. It's pretty serious in that it reduces the damage X takes by 50%, widens the range of his Nova Strike, gives an air dash and a hover, makes it so uncharged weapon usage reduces down to 0, and gives you the plasma charge shot, among a couple of other things. Basically, it's seriously beefy stuff. At number 3 is the Fallout 4 Power Armor. Of course, just Fallout Power Armor is kind of a mandatory one. It straddles the line between mech and armor, I'm gonna go ahead and say. Although, given you're not really piloting power armor, you're still more or less moving around inside it like a suit, and it's really not much larger than a human. The main mechanical translation being the articulated hands that mimic the user's hand motions rather than just being gloves. Power armor basically makes you invincible for the most part. It can run out of power, of course, but while you've got power, it would take a lot to stop you. Beyond that, you can't even be hurt from falling in power armor, and if you land on somebody, it's gonna hurt the hell out of them. You can also do work to modify them, and even paint them to change different traits, like intelligence or charisma. Frankly, these things are iconic, and there's no way we couldn't mention them, but they're also just cool as hell. At number 2 is the power suit from Metroid. It was built by the Chozo, which is essentially some bird humanoids who, aside from being peaceful, were also highly advanced and knew when they needed to defend themselves. If it weren't for the power suit in Metroid, there wouldn't be a Metroid. It pretty much gives you all of the abilities that you would exert in the series. For instance, the arm cannon is not something that Samus just has. The rolling abilities, the ability to take shots from aliens, and then a number of other abilities you can gain by upgrading the suit. This is another iconic one. It's just, without this suit, it's not Metroid. And at number 1 are the nano suits from Crysis. In the first Crysis, the Crynet nano suit is essentially a suit of reverse-engineered muscle fibers that can do a number of things that start with augmenting your muscles, but also harden and function in very much the way you might expect some sort of badass nano suit might. These suits had 4 modes: armor, strength, speed, and cloak, all of them self-explanatory and pretty sweet, but in the second game you actually had a second version of it. The second suit addressed some minor weaknesses the first suit had, and could also absorb various kinds of energy like radiation, static, electricity, and it weighs half of the original suit. It was created partially to address flaws in the first suit, as well as give a clear advantage over the North Korean version of the original Crynet nanosuit. On top of that, if you're wounded in the suit, it can actually seep into the wound and fix it, like a liquid. The suit also makes the person wearing it no longer age, and even stores their personality, basically making someone immortal, although it kind of sounds like a bit of a prison thing. because you're stuck in the suit forever. But that doesn't make the suit itself any less cool. Couple of quick bonus suits for you. Earthworm Jim's super suit, which essentially made Earthworm Jim by hyper-evolving a worm that crawled into the suit. And the Big Daddy suit from BioShock, and ultimately most playable in BioShock 2 multiplayer, where you could actually pick it up as an item and gain 50 Atom immediately, which is a significant advantage. That's all for today. What armored suit is your favorite? Leave us a comment, let us know, and if you like this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe, and do not forget to enable all notifications. As always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter, Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.